Welcome back. We are here in our final topic of our coaching authorization course. How exciting is that? You guys are almost there. You're almost through. You know what you want to do, and you need your coaching authorization to be able to do it. And you felt a call on your heart and been persuaded maybe by some folks to jump into the coaching world, and so you're almost done with this course, and it's exciting. And I think this last section is one that is something that excites me, and hopefully it's one that excites you. And I think that as we talk about this last part here, our last topic, the principles of physical training. This is a unique one in my mind for high school coaches, because the reality is, for most of you, physical training is a challenge. It's a challenge, and if you're a football coach, you're typically lucky. You get a full advantage of the weight room all the time, and ample time. And sometimes, as a baseball coach, high school, it'd be tough. It'd be really tough for me because normally your time is very limited in the weight room. Time is limited with your athletes. And so, and when we talk about physical training and the principles of it, it goes deeper than that. And it's in our current climate of our country, it's an interesting one from the standpoint of how we fuel our body and what that looks like. And we'll talk about that kind of here at the end of this. But just some training basics, I think the big thing is for high school coaches understanding the differences in the level and the physical development of your athletes and where they're at individually, and knowing that they're all at different places. And I think for, when we talk about training in this topic here, in these chapters, these 5 chapters you'll go through, there's 2. It's energy fitness and muscular fitness. I think for most of you, the focus is going to be on the energy fitness, how to build stamina. A lot of times we refer to this as conditioning. How do we condition? What type of shape are you in? And that section will talk a lot about body fat and how to understand body fat and where an acceptable range is at, and how that varies from male athletes to female athletes, and just what that looks like there. And we'll take a look also just at some ways to test your athletes and understand where they're at in terms of their muscular endurance and just the energy that they can create, and the energy you need to play your sport. There's some awesome tables in that chapter that I think it's chapter 14. There's some awesome tables that talk about, that give you, show you what you need. I mean, obviously, your energy fitness needs to be different for a soccer player compared to a baseball player. We're different levels of energy fitness to be able to withstand the demands of that sport, and just how does that energy fitness impact our muscular fitness, and what can we do to accomplish muscular fitness and look the part. We talk about looking the part's probably the best way to put it when we talk about muscular fitness. How do I build muscle? How do I curb the expectations of my athletes, and understanding how much muscle that they can add during a certain period of time, and understanding lifting and weight training to a point that I can benefit my athletes without putting growth in jeopardy, especially with some of the athletes that you'll be working with. I mean, sometimes getting in the weight room and getting after it may not be the most ideal way for them to train quite yet, just depending on their physical development, where they are at in terms of their maturing. And how do we understand that, and how do we create a program that's flexible enough to accommodate both ends of the spectrum? And so chapter 15 does a great job of just walking you through some basics of that. And then how do we teach our athletes how to fuel their body properly? And this is one of those areas where it's a hot topic of debate, just with nutrition and in our country. And the word carb has been demonized. And so how do we understand what carbs are good for us? Because we need them. We need them to fuel. Carbs are the only thing that our brain feeds off of energy wise. And so how do we get give an understanding of nutrition to our athletes that they can easily handle and buy in and believe what's taking place? And so chapter 16 will focus a lot on that, and then finally we'll finish up this section, this topic here, talking about drugs in our athletes and an understanding of gaining an understanding of what that looks like in the athletic sphere. Hang on, give me a second. I'm gonna flip over here to 17 real quick. I always think about putting little tabs in here after the fact. That'd be too easy. So chapter 17, okay, there's some great things that we talk about in this chapter about, one, how you respond and to your athletes on suspicion, and sharing your concern, and just kind of some action steps to take there. Drugs and alcohol and tobacco products, they aren't going away, and so we have to be prepared to handle these things. And it's a challenge. It's a big challenge. I know for me personally, prior to being at Dordt, the institution I was at, we typically had 1 to 2 cases a year where we were dealing with a marijuana issue with one of our athletes or something along those lines. And so it's prevalent. You're gonna, at some point in time, the likelihood of you having to address a drug or alcohol issue is high, and so we have to be prepared for those things. And just chapter 17 here talks about not only how we handle it, but the damage that these things can do, which we're probably all aware of, but maybe puts in some terms that will speak to your athletes and hopefully play a role in preventing them from ever dabbling in these things. And so this chapter is awesome. Kind of what assessment wise, what I'll ask you to do a lot here is we'll have a short test, short quiz, and I'll ask you to put together a training program for your sport for a semester. And not that I'm looking for this minute by minute thing, but I want to see you put thought and effort into developing a comprehensive strategy, because the reality is I could ask you to do 1 week, but 1 week doesn't show that you're thinking about all the ideas and concepts talked about. And for us here, one big thing, we work in blocks. We work about 6-week blocks. We add variety to what we do. We change it up and create some confusion, and allows for some growth. And so maybe that's something to think about as you're developing that strength and conditioning plan. It's been a pleasure. If you need anything, let me know. This is something that I hadn't talked about, but please, there'll be instructions for how to turn in your CPR certification on Moodle, that's my old learning system. I'm still not used to it, on Canvas. And so get that in, and as soon as everything's done, course is completed, I'll get everything sent off to the state. And always a resource. If you ever have any questions or anything, always feel free to reach out. Have a good one.